Are humans fundamentally good or bad?
The answer, in a sense, is both, okay? And another point I want to make in part of this, because, so for example, I just said that we basically evolved to function in the context of highly cooperative groups. That does not mean that there's no incentive to cheat. Because the reason the groups are cooperative is they're well protected against cheating. People are trying to cheat all the time, but for the most part, they're prevented from doing so. This is what morality is all about. Morality is all about creating norms, ways that we're expected to behave, with consequences if we don't. So punishment and social control is part of groups, and that's
there's policing bad behavior. That's a key
yes,
piece
yes,
of this.
we have. It's absolutely. So this is like altruism with attitude. It's not just unconditional niceness. This is definitely altruism with attitude. But then, to make matters worse, or at least more complicated, once groups become highly cooperative internally, how do they behave towards other groups? And the entire problem replicates itself. I call this the perverse alchemist problem. The perverse alchemist turns gold into lead. And so cooperation within groups becomes an agent of disruptive competition between groups. The same problem gets elevated, basically. And to solve that problem, there needs to be a new level of selection among groups of groups. And let me just illustrate this. One of my favorite illustrations that makes it obvious to anyone is the game of Monopoly. And so imagine playing the game of Monopoly, you know it, in which this is a process of competition among individuals within a single group. And isn't it interesting that there's almost no context for cooperation in the single game of Monopoly? The only context is when the current losers team up to beat the current winner so that they can then turn on each other. Okay. And so if we build social environments that are like the single game of Monopoly, we're flexible enough to play that game and even enjoy it. So now imagine playing a Monopoly tournament in which the trophy goes to the team that collectively develops its real estate the fastest. Now it's all about teamwork. There's no context for within-group competition. It's all about between-group competition. And don't you know, we turn on a dime and we function as team players. I've actually done this with high school science clubs. And so, but then, of course, there's no context for cooperation among the teams in the game as it's been configured. For that, we'd need to have a tournament of tournaments. And so there you go. What seems complicated for evolution, we can actually understand perfectly well by just thinking about the game of Monopoly.